10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes for Oil Brothers, the show that we get told off all the Man City fans how we should run our football club. But there we go. Looking forward to it. Martin's late as ever. Ed is speed dating, I think. Let's bring him in. How are we doing, Ed? You're on mute, mate. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
I can now. How's it going?
Sorry, I'm just trying to finish up some work here with the time change and everything. So
yes, that hour. I don't know why we still do it, but we do. It's a bit annoying, to be fair. I'm missing the England game tonight for this. So I hope you realise that.
Nah, man, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to Newcastle, mate. We got a lot to talk about. I don't know if it's international break, but every YouTube channel I hear from Newcastle is talking about who's leaving, who's going.
Well, it's getting close to the end of the season, isn't it? There's a lot going on, but let's talk about our international duty. Anderson Tonali to City. I hope you've got 200 million because that's how much it's going to cost you. So we've had a few players on international duty, which is nice. Baltimore played last night for Germany.
As a striker?
As a striker, had a cracking game. Didn't score or assist, but Nelly did. That offside was very tight, and it was a lovely assist as well. But he seemed to play well, which was nice. You had Cherky, Reinders all scoring, I believe.
I don't know if Cherky. I don't remember if Cherky scored. I know he was.
Sure, he did. In the first games.
Okay, the first game. I thought you were talking about Colombia. I thought you were talking about the second game.
No, I think it was the first game he scored in. All players have contributed very well.
Mm-hmm.
Haaland has also scored as well, I believe. Is that right for Norway?
He didn't play in the first game.
Is he playing tonight then?
Yeah, he'll play tonight. Yeah.
A bit like our England team in the first game was just mismatched completely. I think Nico Riley's playing tonight for England. Borden's playing in the false nine, which is very interesting. No Harry Kane because of an injury. I'll put up the England team sheet because it was a bit of a surprise, to be fair. Pickford in goal, Conte, O'Reilly, Anderson, Gea, Palmer, Menu, Foden, White, Gordon, Rodgers. I thought Gordon would have played the false nine with him showing what he can do for Newcastle. And then I would like to have seen Foden in a 10 playing behind Gordon because Gordon's quicker.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that
Foden,
relationship.
Foden picked up that knock too, so a lot of people were doubting a lot of people were, if he was going to return or not because he came back to England for some tests, but I guess he went back out.
Yeah. I think he's got Rodgers as the 10, hasn't he?
Whose midfield will be what? Anderson? Wait, no.
Anderson and Menu was the two sitting, and then in front he's got Palmer, Rodgers, Gordon, Foden.
Yeah, it could be like a diamond, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one how he's doing. He's definitely got Foden as the false nine, though. Looking to how they're trying to press, it's been a particular England performance in the first 15 minutes. The ball going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. So the defense, it's all very boring. I don't know if you watched our first game. It was terrible. I tried to do a watch along for it and sit through 90 minutes of it, and then he fell asleep.
Only watch you guys during the World Cup or the big.
Shocking. Yeah, I mean, even then, it's not as good. let's have a look. So where do you want to start? Should we have a look at what clubs owe and why I am shocked that Newcastle have to sell players? Because transfer fees and owing money is quite important. And then, I mean, if you look at this.
Well, Baz, before you start, I just want to know that there was an article that dropped today, right? About UEFA might be finding you guys. I don't know if that's in relation to this or not.
No, this has nothing to do with this. This is purely transfer fees. So at the moment, there's 3.5 billion unpaid in installments on transfer fees to other clubs from these clubs. And Newcastle only owe 80 million. So that means when we bought a player, we've literally bought the player outright.
Okay.
And we've got a little bit of money left over that we need to pay. Now, that could have been from the earlier days when our PSR wasn't as good, but we only owe 80 million. Chelsea, over 500 million owed. Man City, 423 million owed. Man United, 404 million owed. And they're in £4 billion worth of debt. Now, this for me right here is why fans outside of the big six get very angry with all the stipulations that have been put in place, because they're better run football clubs when it comes to transfers, fees, and debt. You know, and how can they allow Man United? Man United's the big one for me, you know, so Chelsea.
Because of the debt, right?
Because of the debt. Man City's run very well. Liverpool have run very well. Arsenal have run very well. I have no problems with those three clubs because they do it right. But the debt on Chelsea, Man United, and Spurs in particular as well. And I know they've got really good commercial revenue, but surely they should be forced within the rules to clear debt before they should be allowed to put more debt on top.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? It is basically like a rigged system, like with a lot of things in our lives. Unfortunately, you know, when you do have that commercial value and you do have a big standing within the league, you know, they do allow you to get away. We see that in other leagues, right? With Barcelona, like Barcelona is a major example of this, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it unfortunately is just how football is set up, is to keep these top clubs. We've seen the same thing with, you know, with AC Milan and all the Serie A clubs who are, you know, experiencing stuff too. So
yeah, they're struggling. I mean, they're struggling with money, aren't they, in general? I want to come back to a comment here because it's laughable. Big up Newcastle. Tired of Eddie Howe and the players. Should have sacked Eddie years ago. I am tired.
That's a troll.
Right.
That's a troll.
3.5 years at the helm, 4 years this season. If you wanted to sack him years ago, you're saying we should have sacked him as soon as he kept us up and then not had the ride of getting into Champions League football, not getting to 2 finals, not winning a cup, and not getting into the Champions League from last season into this season. Come on. Terrible. Martin, how are you doing?
Evening.
We're just talking about debt in football clubs and how the system's rigged. And it's a bit, this chart in a nutshell just says why teams like Newcastle, Villa, the fans are sick and tired of the rules, because the bigger teams are allowed just to carry on spending when really they've got more debt than the 2 football clubs who want to spend. Oh, Japan have scored. I expected Japan to beat us tonight. You know, I really did.
Yeah, Japan's a good team.
They are. Apparently, this is the best Japan team they've had since.
I have 2 screens here.
You what?
2 screens.
One's on Instagram.
Oh, right.
I'm way behind. I'm watching it on my phone. Obviously, whoever's watching it must be watching it on normal TV.
It was on. Forgot all about it.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. This is it. It must be a breakaway. They ran right through the midfield of the 2 that were sitting in Anderson, and it's a square. But it's a good finish as well. It's a good goal. Just ripped through the middle of us. So there we go. Matoma. Yeah, good finish to be fair. But yeah. We'll come on to the Newcastle one because yes, we are going to get fined by UEFA, but it's no worse than what Chelsea have done and what Villa have done and what Barcelona have done. So the fines, it's going to be pennies. You know, we're not even that far over the threshold. And what did Chelsea get fined again? Was it something like 10 million, 8 million or 10 million pound for breaking the PSR rules with UEFA, the SCR rules as they call them, squad cost rotation?
I don't.
Any of you remember? I'm sure it was only something like 8 million or something.
I think you're right, though. It was 8 to 10 million.
Yeah, and everyone's just jumped on this, which is it's typical of Twitter. Oh, we're going to need to sell half of our squad to pay the fine and things like that. It's like, no, we won't. We're going to get fined in accordance to PSG, Barcelona, Chelsea, Villa, who have all been fined for breaking SCR. And we broke it. We're going to get a similar fine. So I don't understand this whole uproar and absolute demolition on Twitter just because we apparently broke one rule, which loads of other teams have already broken already and been fined for it. They can't fine us an astronomical amount just because we've done it, because they've already set a precedent with the other 4 or 5 clubs. So, do you know what I mean? Dan, go to bed. All right, okay. So yeah, so I don't know why he's not having a bless him at the moment. He's going through a few things. I've told him. I just said he needs to go to bed. Imagine, so loads of teams have done it. Chelsea have done it. Do you know what's even more funny? Sunderland actually sold their stadium to themselves as well.
You'll make money in the summer.
Go to bed.
You'll make money in the summer when that Italian turns up at the Etihad.
Well, we'll see. We'll come to that later on. Obviously, we're not talking about that right now, Martin. So you need to get with the program and get with the steps. Get with the program.
Sorry, Martin, he was giving you shit last week about it, remember?
Every time I chat, just we like a bit of banter on here. But I've WhatsApped him, I've messaged him, I've even put it in his comments, and he ignores every time. He goes, "We'll talk about that later on."
I do.
Like kicking the can down the road.
It's not in the script at the moment.
It's in ours.
Dan, we're talking about the whole fact that we're going to get fined off UEFA. We know we're going to get fined off UEFA, the same as Chelsea, PSG, and all them lot. So
couldn't be arsed.
Yeah, it's only going to be what, 8-10 million?
If history repeats itself.
Yeah. Which it has to.
Yasser will go into his pocket and find that. It'd be easy.
Exactly.
If however, they choose to make Newcastle the poster boy for the punishment, then we've got a lawsuit.
Exactly.
Because I'll be able to look at the other clubs who have all been fined, who got a slap on the wrist. It's always us. So nope, sorry, not having it. I couldn't be asked. Couldn't be arsed.
Exactly. So
I feel like a lot of fans are take the doomsday approach with a lot of things anyway. I think this is how football fans are, where they always try to point out how the worst case scenario.
Yeah. So Ian, this isn't what we're talking about. Chelsea have got fined by the Premier League recently for breaking rules, and they handed themselves in. We're talking about UEFA. They got fined.
We passed the Premier League's fair market value rule test on this particular transaction. That made it. So,
but the same as Chelsea when they sold the hotels, UEFA aren't accepting it, and they fined Chelsea for going over the SCR rules. The same as what's going to happen to Newcastle. So, forget about what happened to Chelsea 15 years ago. That was a Premier League sanction, completely separate to what we're talking about now. You can tell there's no club football on. Nobody's been Sammy Oshola.
Can't be Sammy. I don't think he can play anymore.
Oh, here's a little, a nice little winner for us, the under-15s. This is Martin, what I've been banging the drum about for the last few times we've had shows about how we are building from the bottom, and it's going to take years before you see the fruits of the labour. But our under-15s beat your team 1-0 in the final, which is nice. It just shows that we are progressing in a certain area, but obviously it's not in the first team. So congratulations to our under-15 team for winning the International Tournament of Champions. I don't know much about the tournament, but we won it. So wasn't player of the tournament the young lad that just joined Newcastle like in January? I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a buzz about him as well. He's played for the under-18s as well, I think, at 15.
Yep.
So there's definitely talent coming through. Do you know what I'm sick of hearing?
One of my Uber drivers from the RVI while I was there, Baz, his son is in the U6 Newcastle team and he's playing for the U8s.
No way.
It's happening throughout the club.
There you go. And this is the sort of thing where we're 15 years behind City, Liverpool, Arsenal, but we are trying to catch up. And
Thanks, Mike Ashley.
Yeah, exactly. But it will come good for us eventually. Anyone in the under-15s that springs out to you guys who played in that tournament? Did you see any of it or know anything about it?
Did he
Did you even know it was on?
No, I'm keeping more behind the under-18s at the minute. We're in the semi-final of the FAU Cup.
Ooh.
And the women are about to smash through the league as well. So, yeah, it's more under-18s than EDS for me. I don't look that far down because I think under-15s is a bit. Because I know it's very, very different level. I've managed under-15s. They're not even grown men. Some of them don't even know the full rules. So,
oh no, I get that. But when you've got a 15-year-old playing in the under-18s, it shows
someone at 15 may look good now, and in a year's time may just fall off an edge of a cliff.
He might. It's happened before. We've heard horror stories of players who lose confidence and, drugs.
And the sad thing is, Baz, a lot of ours, we tend to go abroad now for the young lads. We do a lot of scouting in South America, like the under-15s, the 16s, as Ed knows. Echeverri was only 17, I think, when we bought him.
The thing is, though, when you do that, though, they can't join the club until they're 18.
No, exactly. I think what you will find, by the way, which I think City is starting to do, I think you'll find clubs going abroad, getting these young lads. Because obviously they can't sign an actual contract till 18?
18, yeah.
Full time. So what I think you'll find is you'll find a lot of clubs buying young lads and using them to get homegrown.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
So they'll farm them out on loan somewhere. We're doing it right now with Nipam, the young lad who we bought from. Where are we buying from, Ed? Sorry, there's
some Norway club.
Yeah, there's a motorbike rally going on outside my house for some reason. And I think because obviously between that 18 and 21 years, if they get them three, because I'll be honest, I think there's a talent drain in this country right now. And I think the market is, even for a 15, 16-year-old, the market's so stupid. And yourself, you've got to start incentivizing by giving the parents houses, the grandparents houses. You've got to start buying them cars.
But Martin, we're looking at a 17, 18-year-old Brazilian wonder kid, and his release clause is 50 million euros. So,
which is mental.
And no one's going to pay that, though.
No, but it'll be a good amount, though. It'll be,
I always go back, and I'm sorry, Ed, for saying this, Freddie, you do.
Yep.
You heard so much damn noise about the guy. He was going to be the next big thing in world, not just football, world football. Ferguson, and it just fell off a cliff.
And his family tried to keep his head level. They tried everything they possibly could to make sure that fame didn't turn him, and fame turned him.
Sancho's another perfect one. Sancho was going to be the next big thing. I saw Olivier, a guy you may not have heard.
Ballon d'Or clause.
Olivier Borges was going to be the next big thing. There was was it Indala?
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be the next big thing. And my issue with these young lads, even at 15 and 16, I go back to someone who I worked with. Her grandson was in City's academy and he was 15 years old. They're walking around with Rolexes on the wrist about something.
Oh no, it's a complete
15
different
years
world now,
old, and
isn't
walking around with Rolexes on the thing. How are they learning the value of anything when at 15 they think they've got a 10 grand Rolex sat on their arm?
Well, but at the same time, Martin, Ed, we can tell horror stories about this from 15, 20 years ago. The Dyers and the Genuses and the Bellamys, who were all thrown huge amounts of money back then. The Brat Pack that supposedly ran Robson out the club because they all knew better. Asking Kieran Dyer to play on the wing against Middlesbrough and Dyer refusing. To this day, Dyer says that he regrets that incident specifically for how he treated Bobby Robson.
I agree.
What was that, Baz?
The David Grohl.
Anderson hit the crossbar.
Oh, okay.
Gordon, great touch, some great work on
all
him.
right.
Cut inside, hits the crossbar, top of the bar. It was good. Great touch from Gordon, though. He's the one who set it up. So there you go. Yeah.
I think it's scary, Martin, Ed, when these young kids come in and they're seen as the next big thing. They're told they're the next big thing. They're paid like they're going to be the next big thing, and then it all goes off the rails because they act like twits. I just think this is how what happened to Alfie Harrison after he left you guys. He came to us. What has he amounted to? Nothing.
Yeah. I just think that's the structure of football because it does start so young. It's not like other sports where, you go off to college or you wait until they're 18-year-olds before really getting paid like the big boys. It is starting. We all know that young kids, even at 9, 10-year-old, are getting paid underneath the table to come to go to certain academies, to live certain places, right? So unfortunately, that's how it is.
Yeah, maybe the money should really go into a trust fund or something, and they're not allowed to touch it until 21, and then they get an allowance to keep them grounded. But that's not going to happen, is it? It's just
no. I agree. I agree with you, Baz. But look at Dyer and Genus were in their mid-20s when all the crap that they did happen. So that doesn't really solve that either.
No, true.
But and the last thing you want to do is hand it to a financial advisor or an agent, as we've also learned. Let's go back to playing the game for fun.
I think that's why
have to do with it.
I think that's why clubs have to do so much work on who's around the player as well.
Yeah.
Well, the agents are the worst problem, aren't they? Really, for me.
Well, this is why clubs do background checks, don't they? Or what they call, profile checks.
Profile the player.
They call it now in 2026. And people think they're just looking at the taxes. They're looking at the background of the family. They're looking at everything. Are they married? Do they want to get married? Are they going to have a kid? Are they not going to have kids? What is their long-term plans? All of that comes into it. You don't want someone who's 19 who's going to go out on the piss around Manchester or Newcastle every weekend.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
You used to do it under the Keegan days.
We used to do it under Joe Royal, trust me.
Yeah,
there's a cracking podcast now going with Kevin Orlock and Woodser. That's out at the minute. And I'm telling you, listen to Kevin Orlock. Kevin Orlock played for Manchester City, signed from Swindon, as you know. He went bankrupt and went homeless and had to come back from the ground upwards again. That's crazy. This is a guy who's played in the Premier League, ladies and gents. So everyone thinks that there's this golden gateway everywhere. No, there is for certain people.
There was a BBC documentary I watched on the plane on the way home, fellas, called the V11. Are you familiar with this documentary?
V11.
No, it was Rod Wallace, Michael Johnson from Leeds, Danny Murphy, Craig Short of Blackburn, Andy Cole. 11 players who have banded against. They were all investors handled by a company called. They were all investors in a company called Knightbridge, something security firms or whatever. Who then completely took advantage of them and bankrupted them all. Jeez. Took them to took them down to brass tacks. I mean, Rod Wallace, at the end of the documentary, it was a 2-part series that I watched. The end of the documentary, Rod Wallace was officially called bankrupt, and he was evicted from his home.
Jesus.
So, and these were advisors that they trusted, people who came to weddings, people who came to christenings of children, people who were there at, who it was an awful documentary to watch. And I'm just sitting there going, this is the game as we know it.
Well,
these are guys that were, say again, Martin.
You ever heard of Michael Johnson?
Yeah. That's what I mentioned.
To be the next Colin Bell.
Yeah.
That was how he was being proclaimed. Coming under Sven gave him his debut.
Yep.
And that is such a sad story of a footballer up there. He just went. And
he's one of the V11. He was featured in the documentary.
So sad what has happened to Michael Johnson.
Yep.
Because he was going to be the next Lampard, Gerrard. That's how he was being talked about.
Yep.
And he just, you watch his first season on the Sven, he was scoring goals for fun. Outside of the foot, he was running the show. And sometimes the bright lights are too big. And I think sometimes it's also depends on your upbringing. It depends on everything. You need to have a good family structure behind you with good, solid parents. I mean, and we've seen that, by the way, we've seen this not just in football, we've seen this all over. I don't want to turn it into a morality debate here, but Britney Spears, for example.
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
Miley Cyrus, you can go through all these young prodigies. A lot of them come out of Disney, We've seen all the Disney superstars that all came out when they were young and where they all ended up.
Yep.
They're 9 and 10 years old and they're millionaires.
Yeah, there was not many of them who have got a level head, have they?
Well, mummy and daddy are taking the cream off the top.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on a minute. And this is the problem with footballers. I've seen it on a Sunday morning, and you probably all have, Baz. Parents are pushing their kids, and the kids sometimes ain't got no interest in doing it. And it's like the fathers or the mother is pushing the kid because they're failed footballers.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so sad.
There was one on my son's team whose dad was like that. He's lucky he never got knocked out, to be fair.
I'm going to make it through him. No, you're not.
Yeah. Hate it. I have to watch that documentary. You'll have to message me the title again, Dan.
Yeah. I have to look it up. Like I said, it was
Johnson's in that 11 because I thought it would be. Reece Oxford's another one, by the way, that came to me. I'd done. Remember the guy who was at West Ham? Was it going to be the next big thing?
Trying to remember who all the 11 was. Like I said, Andy Cole was mentioned as one of the members of the 11, but he wasn't featured in the. He didn't want to be on camera. But Danny Murphy featured largely. I mean, and he told his story, and it was gut wrenching.
I mean, Andy Cole was huge as well. He's probably the biggest name on the 11, and for him to lose a lot of money, we'd be talking a hell of a lot of money as well, won't you? When you think about how big he was.
Well, I'm looking at like Craig Short was the skipper for Blackburn at the time. And he's now the manager of Oxford City.
Well, there's Rebel Morrison. There's
Rebel Morrison. I remember. Yep.
The other one. I'm trying to think the guy's name. What's the guy's name? Oh, David Bentley, the guy who was at Blackburn.
Yeah. Went to Tottenham.
Yeah, and he just what we do. He just gave up his career. He just give it up.
Now he's in Spain with a whole bunch of nightclubs and hotels and such. He's not making a bad living nowadays, Martin. But he just gave up. So
we had another one, Ike Himmel, former Germany goaler, Simon City in 1995, and he went back and he was out last about 18 months ago doing a GoFundMe to keep a roof over his head.
Jesus.
Well, he's a former German international goaler.
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah,
very sad.
It is.
Excuse. Yeah. Right, let's try and move away from that for a little bit. Obviously, we've signed a lovely young talent again, another one where he can't join the club until he turns 18. But we have everything in principle, apparently, that he's done. Johan Martinez. Again, everyone's very excited by this young talent. He's only 16 at the moment. So, again, anything could happen, as we've just discussed. But as long as he keeps his head down, we might have another fantastic talent on our side, which is fantastic to see. Let's go into the fun stuff then. So we have mentioned about this already, but this is a little bit more. So Newcastle have sold the ground to another party under the umbrella of PIF. Chelsea have done it. A few other clubs have done it. And there's loads of people saying, well, we don't own the club. We don't own the land. We lease the land, but we own everything above the land that's built on the land. So that is worth a lot of money. So we were able to sell it. And it's something to do with apparently getting all the ducks in the row and all this sort of stuff. But it wasn't. It was basically to balance the books a little bit better than what they were, which shocks me after we sold Isaac for 125 million, Dan. So I'm not 100% sure why we've had to do this.
Well, the funny thing is, reading the report, this was done a year ago. This was done in June. It's just now being announced because they're having to release the financials. Yeah. So I mean, they're on Twitter. There's a couple of journalists who are having a meltdown about them not reading them in on this a year ago. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so this happened literally before the Isak sale, Baz. Yeah. This happened in June last year. We sold Isak in August.
Yeah, true.
So the funny thing that smacks me as funny about the sale is they did this supposedly in order to avoid a PSR fine or liability. And then, 2 months later, sell Isak for a British record fee. So that's why the interview with Hopkinson that was released today says, we're not in a bad position. We can make a marquee signing, but any more than one, we're going to have to look to do what he called some trades. Yeah, so he says the days of Newcastle United being an acquire club are over. We're going to have to join the big boys like your Cities, like your Chelseas, where we get players in who then we can sell on for big profit.
Yeah, exactly.
So the sale of the ground, and it's not the ground. We already own the ground. What they sold was the leasehold underneath it.
Yeah, so I don't understand that because you're not meant to be able to sell a leasehold, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't understand it, but obviously we've done it. It's legal. It's happened.
Renewed it. The new leasehold is now for 50 years. Yeah. And I think the one that they bought out had 75 years left on it or something like that.
So you basically did what we did with the Etihad.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yep.
But we've got 199-year lease? I don't know.
Well, so the way that this is being structured or the way it's being discussed is this is absolutely the thing you want to do if you're looking to do either a gigantic rehabilitation / refurbishment or looking to build another stadium elsewhere.
It's also to levy the debt onto the club for the stadium.
Well, the idea here is that the money, if it is to be sold, the money benefits the club rather than the holding company. So, yeah.
Because any kind of infrastructure anyway, the owners are only allowed to put, is it 20%? Only 20% is allowed to go in anyway from the club on, or is it council?
Something like that.
There's something like that. There's some rule where it's only 20% counts for whatever into it. Because you're allowed a 20% leeway on upgrading things and facilities and all that.
What I thought was interesting in reading the story, and I've read multiple versions of it, what I found interesting, Martin, specifically to you and Ed, is one of the loans that was taken out in order to purchase the property was taken out from an Abu Dhabi bank. Mm-hmm. So somehow Newcastle and Man City are linked in a way.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that thing about Anderson and Ford and balling it, they're not. I watched the first 45
just
minutes.
having a rehearsal
We're
for next
losing-
season.
We're losing 1-0, and we're literally playing against a low block, and we can't do anything against it. Foden's a 6.6, and Anderson's a straight 7. Everybody else is 6.7, 6.6, 6.6. It's been an absolute boring.
I don't know why you watch under Tuchel. I don't know why you watch.
Because it's England, we've got to.
Tuchel's crap. Yeah,
I know, but to say that the ball and that's like he's got his blue glasses
no,
on.
we're looking at connections for obviously the upcoming season. Those two possibly going to be played together, aren't they?
But they very well could do. But to say that the balling, it's a very understatement. Yes, he did hit the ball. It was a good effort set up by Gordon. But
allow us to have a little excitement about our summer, please. Allow us to have a little excitement.
No, you're not allowed any.
Yes, we are allowed. Allow us.
Right. This happened obviously today as well. I don't know if you listened to TalkSport and Simon Jordan, and literally 2 weeks ago, David Hopkins was praising Eddie Howe to the high hills. And then today he's come out and said something along the lines is, I don't have a stance on Eddie Howe's future.
Wait, Baz, repeat that?
No, I'm not going to repeat it, Ed. Don't be a dick.
Look at Ed jumped.
I am very surprised he said that. But also, is he just saying it because he's been asked the question, is Eddie Howe leaving in the summer, or however they phrased the questions? At the end of the day, there's 7 more cup finals for us. We don't know where we're going to finish. Eddie Howe could go on a run and win all 7. There's a possibility he could win at least 6 out of 7 because of the teams that we're playing. And then we could end up finishing 6th or 7th again, which when you put the whole season as a whole, would actually be a good season, considering the summer that we had. But Dan, were you surprised to hear those words come out of his mouth after all the praise you've given him?
No,
Right.
because I think Hopkinson said that they had a one-on-one lunch where they sat and talked about multiple approaches to the summer. You know, as we've said, Baz, we've got 7 cup finals between now and the end of the season. They're not looking to make a change right now, but we also don't know what the results are going to be over the next 7 matches. Yeah. So I think he's keeping his powder dry, saying, look, we're going to have to see how the season plays out. If we go on a run and we end up taking 21 points out of the next 21 available, I think that puts a little bit more credit in Eddie's tank, and see what Eddie's hopes and dreams are for the summer. We've talked all year, all season about the shit show that was last summer. We're trying to avoid that now. We've got Ross Wilson. And here's the thing that I love, the deal taking young Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest was cultivated by Ross Wilson when he was at Forest. If there's anybody who knows that deal backwards and forwards, it's Ross Wilson. And where does Ross Wilson work now? He's the director of football at Newcastle. So I'm interested to see where that one goes, if anywhere, Martin and Ed. I'm just saying, there's hope that this Man City is in the bag. Elliot Anderson's going to Man City is in the bag. I'm wondering about what's going to happen this summer. Because if a Sandro Tonali goes someplace, if, Bruno Guimaraes goes somewhere, if Livramento goes somewhere, I'm interested to see what happens. But to hear Hopkinson say they're not looking to get rid of Eddie, but the staunch backing that he was given before the derby is that language has obviously changed. I think the manner of the Barcelona defeat, the manner of the Sunderland defeat, added on top of the fact that Sunderland has now pulled the double over Newcastle. I think I don't say the alarm bells are ringing, but I say that Hopkinson, Ross Wilson. I mean, and truth be told, you and I both know this, Baz. Eddie Howe's going to take those losses personally. He's going to take them on board. He's going to internalize them. And he may get to the point where at the end of this season, he says, look, I'm going to admit I've taken this club as far as I can go.
Yeah.
But I've retweeted it. Rebecca Lowe on NBC Sports over here during her lowdown segment was asked, does Newcastle move on from Eddie Howe? Rebecca Lowe says absolutely not. If they did it, they would be foolish, because look at what the project was at the beginning. Look at where we are right now. Look at what's planned for in the future. Her words are the same as Wayne Rooney's. As don't careful what you wish for. I was looking for those words.
Grass isn't always greener.
Go ahead.
I remember, like you said, right? Like, damn, there was the staunch approach about Eddie Howe. He's gonna be given another season. He's gonna be given another season. He's our guy. He's our guy.
I still feel that way.
No, I'm saying, but I'm talking about the club. That was the club's perspective, right? That's all you guys heard from the club. We back Eddie Howe. He has our full support. We believe in him, right? Mm-hmm. To go from that, and I know, there was a lot of tough results lately with Barcelona, especially with your local rivals, right? Mm-hmm. But to go from that to saying, I can't really give a comment on his future, shows that there, and then with all the other things going on at Newcastle with players, I know you guys have the structure in place now for the summer, but I hope this is going to be a really big test for Russ Wilson. This is going to be a really big test for him to navigate the manager potentially not being there, players leaving, and then also bringing in players. Yeah. And I know he did a good job at Northern Forest, but he hasn't sat at the big boys table yet.
No, but he's got good.
So there is question mark. I'm just saying there is, like, even with us with Viana, when Viana came in, there was question marks about Viana if he can hang in that pool, right? So there is questions on Wilson if he can get the job done at Newcastle.
I mean, the one thing I was to just kick back on Dan's part, I think Anderson is virtually wrapped up. He's even following City on Instagram. Not if anyone, he's following City. No, Bazzi's virtually done.
Who's following City?
Anderson's following City on Instagram.
And I'm sorry, but with due respect, we can blow you out of the water on wages, fees.
Well, of course you can. But I told you before, if you're not going to back in for Anderson,
Newcastle obviously.
He would.
I did disagree.
He would. Well,
I think you're playing the sentimental card there. You're playing as a Newcastle fan.
I think Anderson would play the sentimental card himself.
Why, do you know him? You had a chat with him.
He's from where I'm from. He's from Whitley Bay.
Right.
And was that the cup final?
Yeah, exactly. Anderson loves his football.
Leroy Sané comes to watch City games.
Yeah. He'd probably love to come back as well. City, he'd probably love to come back though, wouldn't he, if he got given the chance?
Yeah, but he wouldn't.
There you go. That's all I need to hear. Yes,
he would love. I'm sorry. I can say the Anderson deal's well down the line.
Well, fair enough. We'll see. You said this about
Bruno. I know where he is. As I know.
You've said this about Bruno this, Bruno
that. Was all City had to do was trigger the release clause. We didn't value him at 100 million because every player in Newcastle starts with three figures for some weird reason.
All right, let's talk about
your tea lady's 100 million.
Let's talk about the free figure. So how much is Tonali worth?
For me, about 80.
If we're going to be honest,
about 80.
I'll say 80, 85. If we're just going to be honest, I'll say 80, 85.
Do you think he should be valued the same as Anderson, Enzo, Declan Rice?
I think Declan Rice is
to be fair, Enzo has a bigger profile than him. If it's going to be,
he scores a few more goals than Tonali.
He won a World Cup. He's won more trophies. Yeah. He's a higher profile, right? So I think, right.
So what happens if Tonali then has a Storming World Cup with Italy? What's his value going to go to?
See, I don't like when a player just performs good for a stretch of games and his value goes up.
But that's what World
That's
Cups do, though. They do
I
it
know.
to every single player, and this is why.
Oh, the same as Verts and Casado. Wow.
The simple fact is, Enzo Fernandez cost 105 million. Declan Rice and Casado both fetched 100 million. So if you think Tonali's not going to go for 100 million after seeing those three players go for that amount, you're mental. Because
no, but
Tonali
that's because I don't rate them
those
at those values. And those.
Well,
listen, Enzo Fernandez
does.
was not 105
player. I agree, but they've gone for that money. So Newcastle are going to go.
Yeah.
They paid 105 million, 100 million.
I did this debate the other day. The trouble is, every buying club wants to buy cheap, and every selling
club wants to sell high, of course.
Yeah. And that's just the thing. You saw that in the summer with
the Rat.
No, the guy you bought from Brentford.
Oh yeah, Whistle.
I mean, it wasn't worth that, but you got to pay it, and you weren't happy with it, but you got to pay it. It is what it is.
Especially when we offered 20 million less. Three months prior. So, you know.
I was debating with some guy about Trafford the other day, and he's like, Trafford's only worth about 20 million. I said, no, we're valuing him at 40. And we want a buyback. So you take it, you leave it. That's our valuation.
Okay, so, but now you've used that buyback. So now, what's he worth?
We can have another one.
Well, if the buying club agrees to it, that's the thing.
And if Trafford goes to a decent sized club, he's not going to be that.
And my feelings are Trafford's not going to fall for that one again. You know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. He's not going to take that one.
Free Trafford.
Well, to be fair, Trafford's a big boy. Trafford's not a kid.
No, but he thought he was coming back to the club to be number one.
Well, you know what?
And then they brought in Donnarumma on top of him.
But Dan, nobody promised him the number one spot.
No, but to bring him back and use the buyback clause to bring him, he thought he was getting that number one shirt. In his mind, he thought he was getting the number one shirt.
He had no idea, and Pep had no idea Donnarumma was coming. Pep bought him as the number one, and I bet you there was a conversation with Pep and Trafford saying, you are coming back to be our number one.
I think with everything going on with Ederson, I think he would have got a fair shot at the number one. I don't think he would have been given it outright, but I think he would have got more of a shot at it than
Ederson wasn't leaving. He was going to stay for his final year, so he was always going to fight it out for Ederson to be the number one. And then because remember, Ederson didn't actually leave until deadline day.
You see, we wouldn't do that deal. We wouldn't swap you Tonali and get Trafford and take some money and say, oh, you can have a buyback. We would tell you to do one. It's as simple as that.
And that's fine.
You're winning 1-0.
Look, at the end of the day, people can value what they want but you just said you don't want another Isaac situation. Well,
we don't.
That kind of puts you in that when you're sticking on such a high valuation.
What you're hearing our leadership say is the club learned a lot through the Isak situation, and they don't want a repeat of the Isak situation.
Ooh. Italy are down to 10 men as well. And the winning one.
I agree. And that's where I think it is. The problem is, and your CEO said it himself today, they've got to learn to trade now.
Right.
So that means, it's great saying everyone.
What we mean by learning to trade, though, Martin, we're talking about how you guys do it with your youth players and players like that.
Oh, you're presuming that.
No, that is what we will want to do. We do not want to go through every summer having to sell a big star. That's not what we want to do.
Everyone does it.
No, but you don't. Because you sell the youth players.
Alvarez just won a World
Cup. But he wanted to leave, though, because he wasn't getting any games.
The rumours are Tonali does. So it is what it is. I couldn't go with the rumours. The rumours are Tonali wants out. Livamento's stalling on a deal. I know it. It's like us with Rodri Baz. I've seen it this week myself with Rodri. We don't want Rodri to go, but Rodri may want to go. If a Ballon d'Or player says, I want out, you let him go.
And our thing to that, Martin, is Tonali doesn't want to be in England anymore. He wants to go back.
He wants to be back in Italy, exactly.
So I don't see him jumping from Newcastle to Manchester. It's not that much closer to Italy.
But that's the thing, though. With the,
if you
with the
believe
price
all the
you guys
rumors,
are,
Tonali's going to Chelsea or he's going to Arsenal as well.
Right. Oh,
or Manchester United.
The only one we know he's not going to is United because they can't afford him.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
This is why I don't believe any of the rumors.
And the difference between Tonali and Alvarez wanted to leave because he wasn't getting playing time. Where Tonali, if he's fit, is guaranteed a starting place.
But this is the thing, though, right? And I think for me, I think Tonali just wants to be, and I know Newcastle is a big club, and it has, I think he wants to be competing for the top.
That one. Soundbite that one from Ed.
No, I'm just saying. I think he wants to be playing for the top honors. Some players moved to clubs because of the trophies that they win.
Exactly. Right. The only thing we've heard come from Sandro Tonali's mouth, from himself to a reporter in the Northeast, I want to be part of the Newcastle leadership team next season.
Right.
Everything else you're hearing is his agent.
Right.
His agent could be
You just said 5 minutes ago we don't want another Isaac situation. You're walking into another Isaac situation because you got your eyes closed. Because what you're doing, every fan does
is saying different to what his agent's saying.
Isaac did the exact same.
No, he didn't.
Isaac
never came out and said anything.
No,
Isaac didn't
I
say
told you
anything.
in January last year, Isaac at the cup final, I said Isaac wants to go to Liverpool, keep an eye on it. And you went, no, not happening. I said, watch.
Again, you're missing an important thing there. Isaac never said anything. He kept quiet. Tonali hasn't.
Right? All he said is, I'll be part of the leadership,
which is huge.
Right?
Because that means he wants to be potentially in line for captaincy.
But Rodri said he wants to be part of Manchester City. He still may go to Real Madrid for 50 million quid or something.
And he could. Same thing. Tonali, if AC Milan comes back and says, we'll give you 60 million for Tonali, I don't think we're going to be in a position to turn it down.
Plus a player. We need a player as well on top of that.
We can't do that anymore, Baz.
Do you know what it is for me? Me and Ed have got very different in the last few weeks, and Ed, we talked about this on our channel. Is just we're as a channel, probably as a fan base, we're trying to come away from this blind faith in player stuff.
Yeah,
he should be back in the club. Too many people are falling in love with the player rather than the badge, and it's becoming player FC everywhere. So everyone's going, "I'm not letting him go," and I'm not letting him go. And the thing is, me and Ed have seen Aguero, Company, bloody KDB, David Silva, all walk out the football club.
Sane.
And we got better.
Sterling.
Edison, we got better. I know it's hard, but unfortunately, people got to realise footballers are not fans.
No, they're not.
They're not fans. It's a job. You've got fans and that. You'll have Sunderland fans working at Newcastle, and you'll have Newcastle fans working at Sunderland. We have it in our.
We've got Sunderland working for them as well because
it's the way it is. Fans are too blind into the, and I get it because we're fans, but they're so blind in the emotional stuff that they think players actually give a damn about the club.
Yeah, but you also just think you're going to walk up to Newcastle and go, right, we're taking Tonali off you.
No. What we're saying is no. If we want him, we're going to give you a good fee.
You give the fee that we want.
We may come in with 80 million quid. You may think 100 million. Newcastle may think 80 million is good enough.
They might do.
That's
why we have opinions, isn't it? But what
I'm not going to fall out
funny
with people because I've got no say on it. There's no point in falling out with someone.
We don't have a say on it, but we have an opinion on it, don't we? And what we don't like is our opinion being shot down because it's not the same as yours. Yes, everyone has one. But you've got to respect each other's opinion, though, don't you? We believe, because of what's happened in the past with Declan Rice, Casado, and Enzo, that Tonali is worth 100 million to us.
See, for me,
we might meet in the middle, right? It might be a 90 million with 10 add-ons, right? We never know.
We'll see.
Do you know what I think? I think the market's got to change because you just said then about your stats before I came in. That's the reason why, because a bang average player is now going for 3 figures.
I don't think Anderson's worth 100 million.
And City won't pay 100 million for Anderson. That's the thing.
Nearly 2 now.
They won't pay it. We can't have every single player worth 100 million. Everyone will be bust within 6 months.
Yep.
This is the problem. But when you want
It's like, what are we doing here?
Players,
everyone's 100 million. It's like Livramento, which is your player. I get it. You want a world record fullback for him. But the thing is,
you can have
Livramento's not helping by stalling on his deal. And if City pull out of Livramento, what happens then?
I'd sell Tino now.
Whoa!
I said this a while ago to you, Mark. I said you're welcome to. If you're going to pay,
I don't think
pay 60 million
for the money you want for cheese strings. He's got bloody cheese strings as hamstrings now.
You'll be as frustrated as we are with him, and not just his injury record, but these performances going forward and his lack of knowledge.
I prefer Nunes. Don't get me on the Mateus Nunes. I love Mateus Nunes.
Yeah, so you can have Tino. But again, this is what I mean. We will sell the players. The problem we've got is if we sell Tino, we've also then got Trippier, who's 36. We will then have to potentially maybe buy one or two right backs. So
that is
the other problem.
I say we need two right backs and we get balloons.
I'm having a fifth, yeah.
I'm afraid.
Evening, gents.
You see, the thing is, they both could go for 100 million quite easily because the clubs value them at that money, and they're on long contracts. This is the other thing you've got to remember. Tonali's got 3 years left plus another year on top if we want to trigger it. So he's actually got 4 years left on his contract. I know contracts don't mean anything sometimes, but they do mean the player's got a high value because it's up to us what happens to him, not the player himself. So he has to go for a fee that's going to suit our football club.
But see, this is why I can't go at players though for doing some of the stuff they do. Right? We can't. You know, like I know we back our clubs, but sometimes the club have their own interests. Players have their own interests, so that's why I don't go at players for some of the stuff they do.
I get it. But what we should do is do what Spain do. There should be a release clause in every single player's contract.
Yeah, but they have them at $1 billion, Baz. They stick a £1 billion release clause in bang average players over there.
Yeah,
but you know why I don't know? It's different because the club don't hold the registration in Spain.
No, it's the league does, doesn't it?
The La Liga hold the registration. So when you buy, so like the Neymar, for example, PSG had to give Neymar the money. Neymar had to go to the La Liga office, well, his agent did, and put that money in the bank.
Yeah.
And that's why La Liga is so messed up with the structure of the money, because La Liga hold the registrations, not the club.
Yeah.
Clubs don't actually own the players. They just, La Liga loan the players to them.
Yeah.
Very weird how it works over there.
Yeah, I don't get it. But again, I mean, there's no reason why all Premier League clubs can't agree to put release clauses in players' contracts as long as it's at a sensible evaluation. The problem you've got then, though, is if a player has a storming season like Semenyo has, and let's just say they put a release clause of 40 million in for him, and then suddenly he becomes an 80 million pound player, you're losing out on 40 million, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there's the other problem.
Well, it's like, I think the big thing for us on the that 100 million was the Grealish. I think we've gone a little bit scared over the Grealish situation, because we're going to make profit now from him because he's been on the, because once we covered his 2.5, 3 years, it then becomes pure profit on the books. Yeah. But what we've got to be careful as a football club is we're potentially losing up to 5 midfielders this summer. And I mean big midfielders. I ain't talking backups or kids. We're talking Rodri, Bernardo, Nico J, all potentially going. So our revamp, the reason you're hearing so many midfielders with us, Etihad, the reason you're hearing so many, you mentioned that name again, me and you are going to fall out. Right. He does that on purpose. He winds me up, Baz. Chucks Foden's name in every now and again just to wind me up.
Well, here's the deal.
But we can't be holding on to players. It's the badge that you need to be looking for. Mark.
No, Foden's different from me, Dan. He's from my academy. From my academy, he's an academy boy.
Tonali for Foden. There's a good deal.
Foden is the badge, though. Foden is part of the badge. He is Manchester City.
He is, yeah. I know you'll never leave, but I think Foden for Tonali would be a good deal for us.
Oh, you would. I know you. Yeah.
He wants 300 grand a week. Nah,
well, this is where we've got a problem as well as with our wage structure. That will have to be broken, to be fair. How you doing, Sky? How was work?
Mate, I'm sat in the car after graft. Don't ask. Do not ask.
I love it. I love it.
No.
Right. Come on then, Martin. You wanted to talk about the 115 and why you're sick of hearing about it.
Yeah. We're getting 60-point deductions, apparently.
Oh, that's a load of shite, isn't it?
Biggest load of waffle I've ever heard. YouTube has got into so much clickbait merchant this week. There is no decision. They signed NDAs.
Yeah.
If you really think some media guy in Colombia has got the scoop before Manchester City in the Premier League have, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. I understand. And because then they go, the guilt. The other thing the ball forgot to say is City have an appeal process that could take another 2 or 3 years.
You're joking.
There is no going anywhere for the foreseeable. Get
so boring now, isn't it? It's so boring, isn't it?
It's boring for us, Baz. We want it resolved. Ooh, but what I don't like is that City are guilty before innocent.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
it is a load of gaff.
It is.
Because the thing is, no one understands the 115. No one understands what the charges are. No. People are comparing it to Everton and Nottingham Forest.
That does my head in.
Because one was just as they overspent on players over money they never had. And one
twice Everton did it.
And one is potential fraud.
Yeah.
14 of the charges, 14, are on Roberto Mancini and Yaya Toure. Roberto Mancini, which has been accused of money laundering, in the nearly 4 years this has been going on, not one police officer has gone and spoken to him. Not one.
That's interesting.
It is a low. This is the biggest conspiracy and one of the biggest.
That's a great ball.
Situation of Arab owners I've ever seen. This is bordering xenophobia going into races.
They put whole rules in place to stop us because of our owners.
No, because what they did was, because they were clever with us, we came in and then we got taken over in 2008 and in 2012-13, they brought in the PSR rules.
Yeah.
To stop another Manchester City happening. They took us to, they fought us on the ATP crap. And then, slow and behold, we won the ATP case, by the way. But Premier League had to word it into a way of that they kind of won it. Well, you didn't. You didn't win it. Because what they're now saying is, what no one realizes, they've got to prove that Deloitte, which is one of the most reputable and biggest auditing companies in the world, has lied. They've got to prove Etihad, which is a separate company which was proven at the Court of Arbitration of Sport, have committed perjury, and Etihad have committed perjury. And then people think this just takes 5 minutes and it's done. This is equivalent, as I would say, like a huge murder case that can take years and years to solve out. And I'm sorry, and this is not a dig at anybody in the world of football, but ignorance is bliss to a lot of people because they don't understand what they're talking about. I've studied this from day one. I've spoke with Stefan, I've spoke with Nobbins, I've spoke to legal people about this. People don't know what they're talking about with it. Because all they've done is they've read the back of a newspaper, listened to Terry I Talk Bullshit Fluers, and they've listened to all these other YouTube idiots that haven't got a clue. And at the bottom of it is because we've got Arab owners.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Very quickly. Sweden 2, Poland 2. Anfi Elanga has scored for Sweden tonight. And that's in the qualifiers. So that's it. That's huge.
And the other thing, as people and Dan and Scott, people don't realise this, a lot of the charges are repeat charges because it's backdated 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's not even 115 because it's backdated and repeat. Because what they say, anyone who's a businessman knows you do your auditing books a year before.
Yeah.
You guess what your things are going to be the next
No,
year.
it's probably 35 charges in triplicate.
And by the way, 38 of them are non-compliance.
Yeah, which is what I said to you.
You never
before
heard
we
this.
even kicked off.
15 of them, but 38 of them are non-compliance.
Yeah.
But you never heard about that, and that's going to be a fine. And the reason we didn't comply is because we don't think we've gone out wrong.
So that's where the 12 ton of Kit Kats went. Scotty nicked them all.
Yeah. I needed them for work, mate. Sorry.
Oh, man. Do you know what? I love Anfield Langer, but I really hope Sweden get knocked out tonight. I really do, just because of Isak. I am still bitter. And I don't.
I was on mute. I was on mute when you said Elanga scored, and I said, "I know who didn't."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, can I ask you guys, where do you at? Where do you? Because I've seen a lot of people get very excited. Because let's be straight, people want Manchester City put out of existence. That's what they want. They want us put out of existence.
I would go for the red half of Manchester before it started targeting the blue. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on, Gordon, do something special. Good ball.
I just think it's sad that we live in a world
I
where
don't have any problem with City though.
matters.
I've got no problem with City as a club or a fan base, to be fair.
True.
Yeah. Look, I'm the same. If you broke the rules, you should be punished. It's as simple as that. If you haven't broke the rules and this is just a witch hunt, then it's just pathetic.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's gone on for 3+ years,
yeah,
it's an embarrassment to the league. It's bringing a discredit to the system that is supposedly put in place in order to make these infractions supportable. Is that the word? Or punishable, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Just for the fact that it's taken 3 years to get to this point, Martin, is the thing that I think I take the biggest umbrage with. You know, if you're gonna report 115 charges, then by God, get it finished in the next 6 months. The fact that it's gone on for 3 years, and we've seen other clubs get punished in fractions of that time is just it's laughable. I just think it brings the whole punishment aspect of the league into discredit.
I think it brings the whole rules, the whole running of the Premier League.
Yep.
Are they even capable of running the league?
It just, for me, it just smacks that Richard Masters is not worth the salt he's supposedly carrying.
What does that mean without the backing?
Imagine Man City without the backing. I think it just means about the owner taking over and getting all the money.
It would have used club before the backing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a chance of a decent free kick here.
We were the first club to win a domestic trophy and Cup Winners' Cup together in 16 or 17.
Yeah, but I think what I mean
is attendance in UK football. I don't get what.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have won the treble. And
we might not have won the treble, but Chelsea
wouldn't be at the big table, would you? And it's the same with Chelsea. Chelsea hadn't
Man United hadn't got taken over on the stock. It didn't go on the stock exchange in 1992. Would they be where they are?
No, right. Of course they wouldn't. I mean, I think it's a very
ignorant
thing to put the finger at, isn't it? Because I mean, Newcastle would be relegated if it wasn't for the Saudis taking over us, and we could be looking at League One.
And as I'll go back further than that, when we decided to go public and traded, when Sir John Hall decided we were going to go on the PLC and publicly trade, we thought that was going to be the influx of money that we needed to do everything we possibly could have dreamed of, and it ended up not being so. So then when Ashley comes in, he then takes us off the public trading block, and then starts asset stripping. You know, so I mean, just careful what we wish for, I guess. You know, as Baz said, you know, we were looking relegation dead in the eye until our takeover became complete.
It depends on how far back in history you go. Because look at Liverpool in the 50s.
Yeah.
I can't look back. I can't look at Liverpool in the 50s because I don't know it.
People don't realise that these clubs became the clubs they became because they had some form of input in infrastructure put into place to help. Yeah. If you want to, you look at Liverpool and Littlewoods. The Littlewoods Liverpool stuff is hilarious. Go and look into it. Look at Arsenal's background. Look at Man U's background in the 20s and the 30s. People do all. This is my issue when they go punish City, punish us how, because the rules that are in place now were not in place 10 years ago when all this was going on. Yeah. So what are we putting? So can I go back to, because people go, well, Chelsea was 20 years ago nearly.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at Blackburn. Blackburn wouldn't have won the league if it wasn't for all that money Jack Walker put in.
Yep.
You know, he bought the title. Alex Ferguson bought the title almost every season just by being the bigger club and being able to go, well, you've got a really good striker this year, and we're going to take him now.
Well, and they had a hell of an academy as well.
Yeah, they did.
But nobody
Say again, Martin.
Nobody complained at Jack Walker spending his money. They all loved it.
No, they didn't. No, they loved it.
Well,
different.
But then again, I think, Martin, go back and look at it. 30 years ago, £3.5 million was a British record for Alan Shearer from Southampton. Now, 130 million is the British trade record 30 years later. If we were to start looking at things at the scale of inflation, I just think that we are way beyond what we're looking at with Jack Walker 30 years ago, and that's the same thing. I would say the same thing when Abramovich came in. How much was Abramovich worth when he came in? 3 billion? Is that right? 3 billion, 5 billion? He was a Russian oil oligarch. That's what we knew about him. And the thing that bothered everybody at the time was, like Baz just said, Abramovich came in and said, oh, well, you've got a nice striker. I'm going to give you more money than God at that time, and you have no choice but to sell him. And everybody played that game. And they walked away with titles because they bought them. But then, as I've said all season long, the Premier League put sanctions in place to where Chelsea couldn't do that again. No other club was going to be able to do that again. Then Man City got taken over, and their lawyers were smart. They went and found all the loopholes in those rules and were able to skirt those.
No, there was no rules. There was no rules done when we got taken over.
There was no PSR rules.
There was no rules.
No, there were no PSR rules. No, and then for us to complain about PSR, every time Eddie Howe says PSR, every time Hopkinson says PSR, and someone says, well, your club voted for it. Yes, our club did vote for it. Mike Ashley voted for it because he didn't have to put his hand into his pocket and spend his money. The whole idea of PSR was you can only spend what you make. Mm-hmm. That way he didn't have to invest anything.
Yeah.
So yes, Newcastle voted for PSR when Mike Ashley was the owner. Then we got taken over, and the takeover was by the.
Careful with that because the Premier, people think the Premier League make the rules. They don't. The Premier League clubs do.
The Premier League clubs make the rules, and then the clubs vote for the rules.
Yeah, and then they vote for them, and it's what I mean. And then it's the majority vote. But people don't realize,
14 against 6.
Yeah. And what people got to realise, it's like the ATP stuff. But where City argued on the ATP stuff, for example, was your rules in the Premier League is like rules at a private golf club. They're not law-abiding. They're not law of the land. They're not part of the law. They have nothing to do with business law. And that's what City proved. It's like me buying a pub and putting policies in place and saying anyone over the age of 25 is only allowed in and they've got to have so much money. Yeah. Those laws are not abiding. But I've put them rules in place. If someone wanted to take me to court, they can do it. And they'll win because it's not law. And that's what the Premier League has done. This was the whole idea with the Premier League from 1992. And what has happened is, and I'll be straight with you, sorry, Ed, and Ed's had this debate with me loads of times. This is what they want, the American model, which is why the majority of the ownership now in the Premier League is American. They want the American model, which is about
no relegation
capital as you can get into it. And that's
no
fine.
relegation. They don't want the structure.
Yeah, they don't want any of this. This is what they want. Where the Arab owners or the Gulf state owners, as it was called in those emails, was they're not. They're doing that to be the best, not doing it just to take the money.
Yeah.
No football owner buys a football club to make money.
No.
Otherwise, we've got a really bad business model somewhere, because anyone will say you don't make money by the football club. PIF and Sheikh Mansour don't need City and Newcastle to make money.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're rich enough as it is.
It's a toy. It's look how big my dick is.
Yeah.
It's always been like that. And that's what it's been like for most owners, apart from a lot of the American owners.
Trust me, they don't, Ian. Trust me, they don't. Not at City anyway, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things, isn't it? By the way, last little bit of business. He's back. Our saviour is back. I think he'll be on the bench for Palace, and then he'll be introduced into the following game afterwards. But in Bruno, we have a chance, which is sad, isn't it? Because he's the only player who seems to give a shit most of the time, along with Lewis Hall. Everybody else.
And Lewis Miley.
Lewis Miley, is he back? Definitely.
No, I haven't seen anything that says he's definitely back.
Bruno G got a clean shave before GTA 6. Got a new hairdo as well. I'm hoping we're going to have a lot of players back fit, and everyone's going to be firing on all cylinders. The big question is, are they going to do it? Which we'll discuss on another show, because it's a very interesting case at the moment with Newcastle now, because if we don't get European football, there's a few players could leave. If we do get European football, they may stay. So if they don't want to stay, will they do an Isaac? I would hope not. But we'll discuss that another time. Thanks for coming on, everyone. It's been fantastic, as always. I'm very tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I've got
a show, by the way. Can I just plug it?
Of course you can, mate.
I've got a show in an hour and 15 minutes. We're doing a fan forum.
At 10:30.
Yeah.
Jesus, mate. Don't know how you do it.
Hey, full time now, isn't it? Full time. You got to do it.
Yeah, keep forgetting.
It's a job for me.
Martin, I got work. I got to get on a call at, I guess, 11 p.m. your time. So if you're on after 12,
we'll be on till 1 a.m. You know what we're like.
Jesus. No thanks. Anyway,
YouTube worldwide, Baz.
Be